When you told me about the criminals who are doing horrible things, I don't just see people who should be locked up and given the lethal injection. I see enterprising, entrepreneurial, high agency, high activity individuals, but very low basement versions who are hurting people and shouldn't, who don't have moral standards but should. But not that they shouldn't commit crimes, not that they shouldn't be enterprising, not that they shouldn't find loopholes around the laws and the government. I'm actually quite impressed by all those things.
Well, I think that I will say I met a lot of people in my travels and when I was in prison who I thought if you applied yourself to legitimate enterprises, you would be a world beater. You know, definitely that entrepreneurial high agency thing is sometimes present, not always. There was a AFP sting back in like the 2000s with I don't know if you remember where they did this container with all the ecstasy pills in the tomato cans. You might remember this, but this guy, Pasquale Barbaro was his name, and he's still in Barwon prison. But one of the investigators who was leading this investigation, he said, look, you know, in any other circumstance, this guy was like a hardworking CEO who got up early in the morning. He was across every aspect of his business, and you could tell they were impressed. They were like, this guy knows his stuff. He's you know, a hardworking, hands-on CEO, basically, you know. But they're like, but we had to arrest him. You know
because
what I mean?
there's a law over here that says tomatoes are illegal. I know he's pushing pills, but that's all it takes for you to be a criminal.
But I think the right way to think about it is to think about, firstly, is there harm? You know, what is the harm to society? That has to be the bright thread. You have to say, you know, is this simply, you know, going out of your way to take from, to steal, to not deliver value, to extort? And there are elements of the criminal underworld that are like that, you know, which, you know, we often see the more glamorous, because there is an element of Australian society that does glorify or glamorise, you know, the noble criminal, you know, like the Ned Kelly type stereotype. But so I don't even think, and I don't think about police officers, because I've, you know, the other aspect of my story that we talked about, the first thing was like my dad was a police officer for 19 years. So like I grew up very familiar with the fact that police...
He never went through a fire of now we're left with the COVID rejects.
No, he was well gone by that point.
But a fire to pull out high agency, high thinking individuals who might stand up to authority. Like in the US, the cops are pretty good in that sense, and you get a mixed bag in the US because it's so dispersed. So
yeah, I think though, like stories Dad has told me over the years. Like he told me this story once where he was on duty. It was like a public holiday on the Great Ocean Road in Anglesea, and there had been a party the night before, and he and this other cop were on duty in this sort of regional police station. And they got a call saying some young guy that had been at a party the night before was riding this horse up and down the main street of town, carrying on and hollering and, you know, like making a goose of himself. And the other officer went to like grab his stuff and go out and deal with it. And Dad's like, where are you going? And the guy goes, what do you mean? He goes, like, we're just going to give him what he wants. Yeah. If we go and deal with it and give him the attention and notoriety, like, just leave him and he'll run out of steam. And sure enough, they just let it go, and he got tired and went home, and no one was any...
Smart.
You know, and so that, I think that kind of... And Crystal, who's a mutual friend of ours too, Crystal Mitchell, she is that sort of person as well, where it's that community policing.
Again, pushed out.
Yeah, that's right. But I think that, you know, I look at stories of Western suburbs and Melbourne CBD hiring private security to deliver police-like services in the community, and I think, good. That's probably the way it's going to go, because... all good. It has to. The police can't keep up with the growing population and the growing needs for... And I would much rather see an insurance premium subscription style private police service that actually has an incentive to deter crime and prevent property damage or recover property. The police have become kind of a glorified insurance paperwork. And you don't even need to call the police for that anymore. It's like, you know, what's that number? Call us if you need us, but not the sirens, you know. So a lot of it's being farmed out to consultants and non-sworn members anyway. I think today, the vast majority of Victorians don't really respect Victoria Police. And that's kind of sad.
Vast majority or the 10%?
No, I actually think probably that's an issue, or that's a topic that I think spans beyond. I think
really
my gut feel...
Not because of COVID. No, because of the...
I just think...
attacks in Brighton, that kind of stuff.
I think it's a big mix of things, and I just think that people would rather not involve the police because they just think it's going to be not on time, not what they actually want to achieve out of the situation, a lot of paperwork, a lot of headache.
Oh, so service delivery.
I feel as though it's that kind of baseline of what am I actually going to get out of calling the police?
Right.
So, and I think that's actually kind of a exciting vector, because you can, that's one of those windows into that larger group of people where you can say, well, you know, you're right. They're not really giving you what you want, which is preemptive protection. You don't want to call them when something's gone missing. You want them to be in the area or in the vicinity so that your stuff doesn't go missing in the first place.